If your church is serious about reaching new people, getting to the top of Google is one of the most important things that you can do, but it is easier said than done. I'm gonna break down some of the tips and tricks that I've learned over the years to help you get your church to the top of Google. Let's do this. One of the things that I hear from churches all the time is a desire to get their church website onto the top of a Google search. But as you probably already know, that can be pretty hard to do. There's lots of information out there about how to do that and ways to do search engine optimization for a church, but I want to break it down and shed some of the myths around that and actually help you figure out what does it actually take to get a church website to the top of Google. But before we get any further, we probably ought to take a second and talk about why that's important. Well, here's what I think is that the vast majority of people, whether they're looking to go to a new restaurant or hire a plumber or visit a church in this case, they are going to do a Google search before they choose which restaurant they're going to, which plumber they hire, or which church they're going to visit for the first time. As a leader of a church, if you want to see more first-time guests, which is the lifeblood for most churches, it is so important that you find ways to make sure that your church appears when people are doing these kinds of searches. And let me break this down for you as simply as I know how. When you do a search, there are usually three primary components that come up on that search results page. First, at the very top, you're going to see Google Ads. These are paid ads that advertisers are spending, actually in some cases, hundreds of dollars per click to drive traffic to their website. And below that, in most cases, what you'll see is what's called the Google Map Pack. Every time that Google thinks you're searching for something with a local intent, they're gonna show this map pack, which shows you what they think are the most relevant results for your search query. And finally, below the map pack, in most cases, you'll have what we call the organic results or the content-based results. These are usually sites that have the best content and the most links driving people to that content, and Google uses that information to serve up these sites because it thinks these are the most important sites on this search that you just did. So to answer the initial question that we set out with of how do I get my church to the top of Google, the one and only way is through ads. Now, hold on though, before you click off this video, maybe you're thinking, I don't have money for ads. I have some really interesting news. For nonprofits, and this includes churches, they are actually eligible for free ads from Google, and not just a few of them. You're actually eligible for a Google grant that gives your church $10,000 every single month in free advertising that you can use to get your church to the top of those Google searches. We know this because we've helped hundreds of churches get the grant and manage the grant. And if it's something you want to see if your church is eligible for, I'm going to leave a link down in the description. Head down there. We've built a totally free Google grant eligibility checker. You can check and see in a matter of about 60 seconds if your church will qualify or not. Most churches do, so be sure to check it out if you don't already know that you qualify for the Google grant. This is something that your church absolutely needs to be taking advantage of, because if you want to be at the top of Google, the way to do that is through ads. And if you don't want to pay thousands of dollars for those ads, you can get them for free and get your account set up. It's something that we've done a ton of videos on. We'll leave some links to those down in the description as well. But let's say, for instance, that it wasn't the very top you were talking about, but you wanted to be more right below those ads, right in the map pack. After all, if you're anything like me, you probably just skip over a lot of the ads and you look right for the real result. Well, that again is called the Google Map Pack, and the way to get onto there is by focusing on local search engine optimization or local SEO. And this is actually very different from organic SEO. With local SEO, most of the strategies happen off your site and not on your site. Let me give you a few tips to get your church to rank in that local map pack. First and foremost, you have to make sure that your Google business profile, or what it was called about a year ago is your Google My Business page, you want to make sure that that is absolutely dialed in. Make sure that you have your church's hours in there, your location, you have pictures of your church, because we found the more content we give to Google, the more likely they are to show our site. Also, you can do regular updates to your Google business profile where you can talk about things that are happening at your church or upcoming events. When Google sees active users of their Google business profile, it's more likely to serve up your site on that map pack. Beyond that, there's a couple of other things you can do. You can make sure that on your church website, your name, address, and phone number is very clearly present, usually right there in the footer. And you want to make sure on every directory site out there, that's any site from Yellow Pages to Google itself to Facebook to Apple Maps, on every one of those sites, that your name, address, and phone number are exactly the same. This helps Google realize that this is the same organization, and anybody searching in this area is going to be more likely to show up on your site when you do that. Finally, one of the things that might seem a little bit counterintuitive at first is it's important that you get lots of reviews for your church. This is one of the chief criteria that Google uses to evaluate which organizations are important and which aren't. They figure that the more reviews, especially positive reviews that you receive, it makes Google think that you are a better organization for them to recommend when people are searching for churches in your area. One of the ways I like to think about reviews online is to think of them more as online testimonies. Ask people within your church who have had a really good experience to get online and leave a testimony on Yelp or Google or Facebook, and it'll serve as a signal to Google that your church is a prominent one. And I know this as someone who has pastored both small and medium-sized churches. Even small churches can rank in that map pack if they take local SEO seriously. Finally, if you're more concerned with showing up at the bottom of a search, which I don't know why you would be, but there is still some value in creating organic content. This is what appears below the map pack, and it represents what Google thinks are the best websites of organizations in your community there. So the way that you do this is by having really great content on your church website. And the best way to do that is by actually leveling up your church sermons pages. If you're just loading in a video every single week and giving it a title, well, you're not doing all you can to help your church rank on these organic searches. With your sermons, make sure you give them a name that people are actually searching for. For instance, if you just did a message on tithing, you should consider calling it something like Tithing in the Bible or an explanation of tithing, instead of something that is more creative like how to be blessed by God. Because in reality, people are going to be much more often searching things like what is tithing or what does the Bible say about tithing, as opposed to topics like how to unleash blessing in my life. When you think like a searcher and actually put that content on your sermons, you're actually going to have a leg up when people are looking for churches in your community. One other piece of advice I have for you is to make sure to include lots of text content on all of your sermon pages. Don't just put the video on the page and call it good. Actually write a description of what the sermon is all about. Try to make the description at least 400 to 500 words. Ideally, you can do over 1,000 words, and you'll have a higher chance of ranking that sermon when people are searching for those topics. And once you get a bunch of different sermons ranking, you'll find that when people just look for churches in your area, your church will become more and more likely to show up. So to recap, if your church really is serious about getting on the top of Google, the best way to do that is by Google Ads, and the best way for churches to do that is by using the 100% free Google Ad Grant. Now, one of the sad things about the Google Ad Grant is that the $10,000 that you get every month, for some churches, it can be kind of hard to spend that. But what we did is we made a video that explains exactly how you can get the grant and maximize it so you can spend all $10,000 every single month of Google's money. I'll leave a link to it right above me here, and we'll see you next time.